So Xbox for April is looking really good with big day one games for Game Pass and some awesome Xbox Store releases. I'm Sunny, and of course we're going to start this with the much anticipated game South of Midnight that was just dropped some new gameplay footage, and it showed off more of the game's world, characters, and combat. I've been following this game pretty much since it was announced, and to be honest, I didn't expect the combat to look as intense as it does, which really surprises me. The great news though is for anyone who loves action mixed with a good story, you're going to really enjoy South of Midnight because it seems to deliver on both. Plus the game's coming out very soon on April 8th, and it will be, as I said, available as a day one release on Game Pass for Xbox Series X and S and PC. So after we got a bunch of delays, Commandos Origins is finally back on track for release. The game brings back the classic gameplay of the original Commandos series, but adds some modern features and of course better visuals. You'll still get to lead the same amazing team of elite soldiers through some high-stake military operations, including covert sabotage missions, full-on raids, and even intense spy operations. And it's going to require a ton of planning and better execution. You'll also need to use all 5 soldiers wisely, combining their unique skills to overcome every challenge. This one is set to land on Game Pass on April 9th. We do have the next Descenders game. This is the sequel to the popular extreme sports game. This time though, it's adding more downhill sports, starting with the snowboarding and mountain boarding, with plans to include more over time. The exciting part is that the game now supports up to 12 players riding down the same slopes together. The environments are also varied this time, featuring procedurally generated dry mountains, snowy peaks, rocky hills, even some dense forest to ride through. There's also improved control over aerial movements, allowing for more amazing tricks mid-air. Descenders next is set for release on Game Pass on April 9th on Xbox Series 1, X and S, and PC. We have the game Steel Seed, which is basically like Prince of Persia but set in a more futuristic sci-fi world. It's a stealth action adventure where you play as Zoe, a special soldier on a mission to save a planet that's about to collapse. Now that story might sound a little familiar. It's basically your classic hero saves the world kind of setup, but the gameplay and visuals are what made me put this on the list. The game features wall running, climbing, sliding, stealthy takedowns that do remind me of the good old Prince of Persia days. On top of that, there's some deep customization systems here with 3 skill trees and over 40 upgrades to really tailor your character to your playstyle. Steel Seed is coming to Xbox on April 10th. If you're looking for a more challenging puzzle game, you should check out Blueprints. I've talked about this game previously. It's shaping up to be one of the more exciting, mind-bending puzzle games of 2025 if puzzle games are your thing. Of course, the goal in the game is to find a secret room. It's called Room 46. The problem is the entire manor is always shifting, with every door you open letting you choose what room appears next, and those choices can completely change the course of the journey. By the end of the day, the layout changes and the room you just left might not even exist anymore. It's a concept that already sounds like a real big brain workout, so if you're up for a serious challenge, keep an eye out for this one as it releases on Game Pass on April 10th. While we're still talking about puzzle games, you might want to check out Talos Principle Reawakened. It's the remaster that brings the original Talos Principle along with its expansion Road to Gehenna, all with massive visual upgrades thanks to Unreal Engine 5. But it's more than a simple remake. It includes a brand new story chapter, a puzzle editor for the modding community, a ton of quality of life improvements. It doesn't matter if you're just starting out with this game or planning a replay, this edition offers plenty of reasons to jump back in. The Talos Principle Reawakened is set for release on Xbox on April 10th. Our next game is Finding Frankie. This is a game that feels almost like it's Five Nights at Freddy's combined with like Stumble Guys. It's a spooky parkour adventure where your goal is to make the finish line with crossing a variety of tricky obstacle courses, and along the way you'll encounter cartoon characters that might seem friendly at first but turn out to be some evil monsters that try to hunt you down. You'll need to carefully run, slide, and dodge your way through these intricate challenges, and the game's already earned very positive user reviews, and it's finally making its way to Xbox on April 15th. So we have an action strategy game called Chains of Freedom. This is a dark tactical turn-based adventure where you lead a special squad tasked with hunting down monsters that have taken control of a dystopian Eastern Europe, and it's hard to say how the full game will perform when it releases, but there's already a demo available on Steam if you want to give it a shot. Chains of Freedom is scheduled to land on Xbox on April 15th. We have the game Mandragora Whispers of the Witch Tree, which is a 2.5D action RPG that focuses on brutal Souls-like combat. In this game, you'll be taking on a wide variety of monsters as you progress through a 40-hour-long story in a dark fantasy world. Now, I'm not huge into Metroidvanias, but this one does stand out with its depth, especially with its detailed skill tree, which I think will also appeal to Souls-like fans. Mandragora is set for release on Xbox on April 17th. So we have our first look at FBC Firebreak's gameplay, and to be honest, it looks wilder than I expected. For those who are just hearing about this game now, FBC Firebreak is a multiplayer shooter that takes you to the same monster-filled universe of Control, but instead of a more story-driven gameplay, you are here to play cooperatively with other players as part of a team that is tasked to protect the Bureau from these relentless wave of monsters. I'm loving the gameplay so far. I'm really excited to get my hands on this one, and this one does look really good. It's coming to Xbox. It's coming as a day one Game Pass release on the 23rd of April for Xbox Series X and S and PC. Before we go to the next game, I've got some news I wanted to share. Microsoft just announced that Game Pass PC and Ultimate subscribers are getting more in-game perks for free-to-play games like Heroes of the Storm, Naraka Blade Point, Smite 2, The Finals, all starting this week. And in April, they're adding more games to the list, including Call of Duty Warzone and Enlisted. These benefits will include things like cosmetics, characters, in-game currency, and a whole lot more. Our next game is Once Upon a Puppet. This is an innovative puzzle platformer where you play as both a puppet and a puppeteer exiled to the understage, and your goal is to help them return to the main stage by solving puzzles, rearranging obstacles, and facing off against some truly sinister creatures. It kind of reminds me of Little Nightmares, both in terms of platforming mechanics but also its spooky visual style. So anyone who's enjoyed that game is going to want to keep an eye out for this one. Once Upon a Puppet is coming for Xbox on April 23rd. So we got a fresh look for the much anticipated action RPG Claire Obscure Expedition 33. We got to see more of what the game offers, including how each character you pick has their own motivations for joining the fight against the evil paintress. Players will also have access to customization options, allowing them to really personalize their expeditioneer's appearance, which is always a good option to have. On the gameplay side, the tactical turn-based combat seems to have a lot of stylish flair, which makes these tactical battles a lot more fun. This one is set for Xbox on the 24th of April, joining Game Pass as a day one game release. After 26 years, the iconic Fatal Fury series is making a comeback with City of the Wolves. For those who remember these legendary fighting games from the 90s, I think this is huge news. City of Wolves keeps the classic gameplay but modernizes it with some new exciting changes. The combo system has been completely revamped. It introduces a new rev system that lets you chain together impressive moves seamlessly. There's also a new control scheme designed for newcomers, making it easier to pull off flashy combos without relying on complex traditional inputs that are hard to remember. Plus, the game offers a big roster of 22 heroes with more to come. City of Wolves is set for Xbox on April 24th. So we just received news that the game Painkiller, the classic demon shooter from the early 2000s, is getting a reboot. This new version promises to bring back the same intense, gore-packed gameplay that fans have come to love over the years, but with overhauled visuals and of course smoother movement mechanics. For those who are new, Painkiller is an action-packed shooter that throws you into a chaotic purgatory where you fight against relentless waves of demons and absolutely massive bosses. You get to choose from 4 unique characters, each with their own skills and abilities, which can be customized further using power cards. Painkiller seems like a game worth keeping an eye on, especially with its modern upgrades and classic roots. This one is set for release on Xbox Series X and S sometime this 2025. So it looks like we have an update for Hollow Knight Silksong. This is a brand new rumor that surfaced from one of Xbox's most reliable insiders. This is the same source who's accurately predicted major releases like Call of Duty and other things to Game Pass. According to this guy, Silksong is set for launch on Game Pass this June. And of course, while this isn't officially confirmed, we'll have to keep an eye out for this one. They seem to always be ready to release it at some point, or there's like a release window, and then something just delays them and they go, what the heck, we don't need to release this anytime soon. So hopefully we get to see it here in this summer, and I'd be really excited personally. So we got a release date for Towerborne. This is a looter brawler that mixes side-scrolling platforming with an ARPG experience, and in this game you and your friends take on the role of heroes tasked with protecting the people of Belfry. You start off by choosing from a variety of classes, each with unique skills and abilities to match your playstyle. The game comes out in early access on Steam with some really quite favorable reviews already, but it's had some problems. So ahead of its full release, the devs announced that the class mastery update, which brings revamped progression, also smoother combat, some cross-play, local co-op for up to 4 players, and some fresh missions to give players an incentive to dive back in. Towerborne is set for release on Game Pass on April 29th. So we have a massive Kickstarter indie success game called Yasha Legends of the Demon Blade. This one's an action roguelike where you play as demon hunters tasked to hunt these monsters with your swords and your environmental powers, and the game, I gotta say, looks pretty sick actually, letting you pull off some insane attacks on all sorts of crazy enemies. You can replay the game multiple times as different characters and they offer different storylines. This one is set for Xbox on April 24th. If you're a fan of co-op games like Overcooked, you're going to want to check out Sedap, a culinary adventure. This is like Overcooked, but instead of chaos in the kitchen, you're actually out in the wilderness trying to cook up some amazing new recipes while hunting down monsters. The game looks wild, especially if you have friends to really share this epic adventure with. Sedap doesn't offer or doesn't have a fixed release date, but it is set to drop sometime this April. Our last game is MotoGP 25. This is the newest entry into the long-running MotoGP franchise, and the game is expected to deliver some authentic racing experiences while allowing players to choose between a realistic or a more arcade-style racing approach. MotoGP lets you race with your friends no matter what device you're playing on. You can even play with other players online with competitive ranked races. This latest edition also is coming packed with enhanced graphics and improved sound design. I've gotten to play this in the past. It's been a couple years since I've played MotoGP, maybe like MotoGP 22, 23, and it's an interesting game, especially if you play on the realistic mode. It's super hard, one of the hardest games I've ever played. But either way, if you're looking for a challenge or something different in the racing world, this is a good one, as it's set to land on Xbox Series X and S on April 30th.